Hi everybody and welcome to this little time lapse. We've got these clementines which I set up myself in my studio, which you'll see in a moment. I'm working on the pastel matte paper here in the maize colorway, and you can see I've got a very rough pastel pencil drawing in there. So there's my little setup, but it has been days since I was able to actually sit down and pastel. I'm just showing you a little bit of my studio there. All those boxes there are Christmas presents. This is literally just before Christmas that I filmed this. But anyway, Marks and Spencer's were selling boxes of clementines with the leaves on. So of course I grabbed a box, but a lot of them got eaten before I could sit down and set something up. And by the time I got to actually painting, the leaves had curled and dried. So I actually took photographs of my setup. So I quickly grabbed two clementines, took some photographs, and one of the photographs is what I'm painting with, which you can see there on the left. But I just decided to keep up that clementine. You can see the one fell off, and you can see it looks very different to the photograph. Like I said, because I didn't set it up and sit down and start pasteling. So it's quite useful when you do set up a still life. You can take photographs and then you have your photographs as your reference. Ideally, I would like to sit down and actually paint from life. But life happens, so, photograph is the next best thing, I think. And I like the way the end result turned out. So I am making a few changes. The biggest change you can see is if you have a look on the reference photograph, you've got a big leaf dominating the painting. I get rid of that and I've made it two smaller leaves pointing more downwards rather than horizontally and out the painting. So the background, we've got some lovely warm greys, some rosy toned and mauve toned warm greys. I didn't want to just do a white wall. I think, well, obviously it is a white wall, but I didn't want to just use white. That would make everything look a bit flat and dull. So I'm sparkling it up a little bit by using some colorful greys. So right now that shadow is pretty dark. It's a dark warm gray that I've used, as well as some of like A22 from Unison, which is like a dulled down mauvey brown. And giving everything a good rub into the paper as always. So the size here is a little bit bigger than an A4. So it's 28 centimeters by 25 centimeters. And like I said, I'm working on the pastel matte paper here in the maize color. They keep changing the name. I think it's called maize or corn or something like that. So really making sure everything is seamless. Really rubbing in. I actually stood up so I can put more pressure and actually really rub that background into the paper. So the color I've got at the moment I absolutely adore. It's a Jackson's own brand soft pastel, and it's warm gray 4. It's got a slight greeniness to it. It's really, really lovely. Really useful for things like backgrounds. It's fine to have dull grays, meaning when I say a dull gray, I mean a gray that is literally mixed with black and white. There's no other color nuances in there. I love working with grays that have nuances of greens or reds or peach. I just think it makes for more of an interesting painting. As you can see right now, just looking at it, you can see that the background's got like a peachy pinkiness to it. If that was more just white and black mixed together, it would work, but I just don't think it would be as interesting. Anyway, so you can see I do a very rough sketch. I'm waffling on about something there to my patrons, because obviously over on Patreon, this is in real time. I'm showing them the greens that I have there. I think the thing I hate painting the most, besides trees, would definitely be foliage. I force myself to do it because in a fruit or veg still life, I really think by adding some foliage, it just takes it to the next level. It stops it from looking like a shop-bought supermarket piece of fruit or or vegetable. It gives it its more of an organic character, I feel. So I love, even if in my reference photograph there's no foliage, I will add it. So I force myself to paint leaves, but I really don't enjoy it. I think the trick for leaves I'm discovering is you've got to make sure you go dark enough, obviously, like with everything we paint, if you want to go for that realism. But also, I've got some blue greens in there as well as some yellow greens, as well as greens that are very grayed out. So I've got a mixture of greens to try and get more of a lifelike appearance. So you can see what I really didn't want to do is I wanted to get the background in so that I could paint the leaves on top of the background, but sometimes that doesn't work. So I've got to take little bits of the background color and put it in around the leaves. I don't really like working that way because it messes up your edges and can look quite messy. And so you just got to really work at it more. But anyway, sometimes I have to put the background in and around the subject, which is not my favorite. But here I'm just adding, like I said, a mixture of greens to try and get the realism in these leaves. So going in with good old-fashioned Senalia Castle Earth is one of my favorite browns. It's just a beautiful reddy brown, so I'm using that as the shadow. And then going over with a mixture of Sennelier, predominantly using Sennelier with a few unison, because I say this all the time, but if you are just looking for punchy, saturated color, Sennelier is the brand I go to. They just have the most beautiful, vibrant pastel sticks that I've used so far. So as you can see, lots of mixtures using traditional good old-fashioned bang in the middle orange, as well as some more yellow oranges, as well as some more ochre tones, some more earthy tones in there, just to get the tonal value, because these are round, so we're needing to have subtle changes in the tonal value. So it's going to describe the form of the clementine shape. Also, even adding this is like a khaki brown. It's called bronze green deep by Sennelier. And it's like a Greek gold sort of color is how I describe it. Then of course coming in with some tinted whites. I use the Art Spectrum highlights. You get 10 highlights in there. They're all white and they tinted either yellow, pink, gray, green, and I used the yellow highlights. Fixing up my edges here because it can, like I said, can look really messy. I don't like that. So I do try and pay special attention to my edges to get them really not looking messy. Soft edges where they need to be soft edges and hard edges where it needs to be hard. Now, because we've got this pale background, there's a lot of hard edges going on here. The shadow is all soft, but the actual subject itself, I've got to make sure we got nice crisp leaf edges on there. So you can just see me tidying up a little bit here. If you've enjoyed this, then please do check me out on Patreon. I shall leave a link in the description. But I'll leave you here for the next few seconds. Until next time, bye for now.